Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today. I'm Natalie from UXPin, and I'll be your moderator. Please be sure to leave your questions in the Q&A section, and we'll try our best to answer all the questions at the end. For those of you who are not familiar with UXPin, UXPin is a code-based design tool that merges design and engineering into one unified process. We focus on design systems, simplifying documentation, and advanced prototyping, which allows you to build prototypes that feel like the real thing. Now, with further ado, let's get started with our webinar. The topic today is Test, Learn, Change, Mobile UX Best Practices and Learnings from 600 Audits. We are extremely honored to have such an amazing speaker. Allow me to introduce to you Anna Potanina. Anna is a mobile UX and CRO consultant at Google. And in her free time, she's an illustrator and VR enthusiast. She's an expert in UX, design, and conversion optimization, and passionately advocates to combine creative thinking and data to help businesses succeed on mobile. Anna helps Google partners across EMEA improve mobile experiences by leading design sprints, webinars, and UX workshops. Prior to Google, she was an IT consultant at Accenture. She has degrees in applied informatics, innovations, technology management, and CEMS, international management. Now, with that impressive bio, Anna, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Natalie. Hello, everyone. My name is Anna. I work for Google, and I am specialist in UX and mobile design, and I do work with external companies a lot, right? So we do partner with UX teams at Google, but what we are doing, we are basically taking their knowledge and trying to scale that externally to help you build great products on mobile and to build great experiences on the web. So today I'm going to take you through my talk. You can find it on YouTube as well. I did add a couple of more new examples, new case studies. But yeah, it basically is called Test, Learn, Change. And I will take you through the things that you can test. So basically the majority of this content is going to be different recommendations for A/B testing, things that we saw work well on mobile. But besides the things that you can test, I will also take you through the things that you need to learn so that your A/B tests are successful, and why you also need to change the culture of your company in order to succeed on mobile. So on this note, I'm going to start with the first part, which is called test. And this is actually some kind of key ideas that we took out of 4+ maybe 5 years of hard work of my team based in Dublin, Google European headquarters. And over the past 4 years, my team have done about more than 600 UX projects with external companies. And of course, I want to talk about every one of them, but my 4-hour request was declined. But yeah, I will take you through some of them though, and I will start with a story. So this is a picture that I took in London recently in one of the restaurants, right? These are salt and pepper shakers that they brought me. And I did want some salt in my dish, and I didn't want any pepper. So I've made an assumption that salt is probably in the one with 5 holes, and pepper has 1. Well, at least in my culture, the salt shakers would always have more holes than pepper. So I've made an assumption, I conducted experiment, and this was pepper. So obviously it was a really bad user experience for me because my assumptions failed, right? I also ended up having a lot of pepper in my dish, which I didn't want at all. And all in all, I don't want to go to this restaurant ever again. But that was in London, and then I went back to Dublin, where I currently live. And this is what I've got in one of the pubs. So, and I was like, how, I don't have even any chance here, to guess. I just have to blindly conduct the experiment, blindly do the thing and figure out where my salt and where my salt is, right? And yeah, and after that, you know, I do travel a lot. I like traveling. I started basically noticing these things. You know, this is what I saw in a really nice hotel in Cape Town in South Africa. And I find things being communicated by designers very, very inconsistent, right? And sometimes they're really hard to guess. Sometimes they are weird. Can you maybe guess where this one was? I anyway can't see the chat, but this one was Amsterdam. I thought it's really, really funny. And, you know, I started researching things. There is a website where you can, you know, put pictures of Norman doors, right? Doors that where you when you approach the door, you don't know whether you should push or pull that one. So I did the same research with the salt and pepper shakers. And, you know, I found this. This is one lady in Belgium. She's collecting salt and pepper shakers. And I was like, wow, how crazy people can go about making things beautiful, but not usable at all, because I would personally have no idea which ones of them are salt and which ones of them are pepper. So when you travel, you find yourself in different environments, and every time you need to adapt, you need to recognize things in order to get things done, right? And what helps here is consistency and clarity in design. And good design, as we all know, obvious design, is very hard to notice. So and it really reminds me of the situation when the user is jumping from one website to another, trying to recognize the navigation patterns, trying to get things done. So all in all, it's kind of, we can see a lot of parallels with the real world, with the physical design. And, you know, the solution to this and salt and pepper mystery is probably this. You know, maybe not the best visual design, but a much better user experience, because I'm absolutely clear, well, if I speak English language, which is actually another localization challenge. So I'm absolutely clear from the first moment which ones of them are salt and which ones of them are pepper. So this brings us to the first thing that we learned about auditing the different websites, is that you should call things what they are. Call any icon on the website that you have. You just need to always add a text label to it, right? Then you tell people what's going to happen if they click on it, because people would have different backgrounds, different assumptions, different level of experiences on the web or apps, and you always have to be absolutely clear. And I know that I'm happy to share with you that we actually learned this on our own products, right? This is a case study from the Google Translate team that I'm happy to share. We increased the engagement with features by just naming them in the UI. Well, they also changed a little bit the design of the icons, but they also named a lot of them. And specifically, I wanted to turn your attention to this one. I don't know, probably everybody was just wondering before, what is that weird snake? But now everybody knows this is a handwriting feature, and it's actually pretty cool, and you can use it in the Google Translate app. So yeah, lots of lessons learned about that. Regarding text labels, just add them for any single icon. It also, that is all specific, increase the top area, the target area. So all in all, it helps with the clarity, and it's good for mobile ergonomics perspective. Moving on to the next real life example, and you may have some guesses what I'm going to speak about now, or you may not. So besides the fact that this is a GIF from The Walking Dead, one of the episodes of The Walking Dead, this is also an illustration for revolving door, right? And revolving doors, they were originally invented as a design solution to allow much more people in and out at the same time. However, if you're a user of revolving door, if you're inside of that, you don't feel well, right? It it moves fast. You depend on other people. You have to be very careful. Sometimes it gets even dangerous. So all in all, revolving door represents zero user control and a lot of anxiety. And you know what that reminds me when it comes to websites? Animated carousels that people put right on the top of the landing page, on the top of the home page, and they would, you know, be engaging user into this automated wildness, absolutely. And of course, this is a bad user experience because we do get annoyed by animation and we perceive it as ads. And even if I want to read what's on the banner, it just moves away from me. So the solution to this one, right? And also if you look into the data, different research shows that the majority of interactions usually happen with the first banner, but the rest of the banners, once they start moving, they are just being ignored. So all in all, this is a bad user experience, and we do ask companies just to turn off the animation and to put user in control. You need to allow this to be a user-initiated exploration, because that's engagement is a new currency in the UX world, and that's how you give people a choice that they do want to explore what's next coming and what is on the other banners. And that's how this decision is just gonna make much more sense and cost much more for you, you know. So yeah, that was the next point about the carousels. You just turn off the animation. You can keep all the banners, you can just implement the dots or arrows, but then you just let people know that there's more information available and they can just explore it themselves. Moving on to the next real life example, and this is not mine. My friend, he lives in Ireland and he has a blog about his life there. He found it on Reddit. So, and this is a perfect, like if any one of you has ever lived in Ireland, this is a perfect illustration of local mentality. So like 10 items will do, 12 items will do too, but just like, I thought it's really funny. But I mean, my key point is that are you keeping people clear or confused about what, you know, you are communicating? What if I have 11 items? Is that like, is that going to work or not? So, I mean, the point I was trying to illustrate here is the copy that you need to get right. You need to test the copy a lot, and it's very, very important and very hard actually, especially in mobile, because you don't have that much space. You need to work on the, keep things really short, but at the same time descriptive, easy to understand for a child and easy to translate to other languages if you want to localize your website to different countries, right? And yeah, there are a lot of different rules of UX copywriting, and you can find them all online. I will probably just, again, cover a few things that we saw companies are doing a lot, maybe a few mistakes, and we will also have a look into a couple of more case studies. So one of the things that we saw our companies do, they brag about their product or about their service. However, what they should actually be talking about, it should be the end, you know, the user, what the better version of themselves the user is going to become if they're going to use your product or your service. And this is, you know, you need to keep in mind that people are usually, there's just a few examples for you, people are usually not very technical, right? The words quite often are being written by product managers or really technical people, but users on your website, even if they're looking for a new B2B solution for their business, they may just want to become better, more efficient business. So you need to keep in mind that people are not really very technical, and you need to talk to them in a very nice conversational way, and you need to talk about them, right? So list the benefits, not features, the benefits they're going to get and what the better version of themselves they're going to become. And this is actually a very basic sales training, but again, people who are working on products, they just don't know that or tend to forget. Right, so you just keep things in a very nice and conversational way. You just tell people what they need to do in order to fix a mistake. You don't blame them for making mistakes, blame them for, like one of the recent examples I saw, blame them for being offline, like your phone went offline, connection is broken, like fix the connection. So you just need to tell them what they need to do, and stay on the light side. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life. Nobody does, right? And so what, besides the ground rules of UX copywriting, what are the key tests that you can run with a copy? So first of all, it's testing copy of the call to action text label. And you all know it's very important, but sometimes it can really drive a lot of business results, right? This is a case study from the hotel search team at Google. And they used to have a text label on the left, book a room. And what they thought, so their hypothesis was that it was probably a little bit too early for people to commit at this stage. They are probably just not yet ready to book, but they do want to check what is out there, what rooms are available. And they changed the text label to check availability. And what they found was that this was actually meeting users where they were in their journey. So do check. Sometimes it's good to play with the urgency messaging, right? So this is one of the last products left. This is very popular, selling out fast. However, sometimes you need to allow people to maybe move slower, but that's how you will be meeting where they are in their journey, where they are in your funnel, and translate the right message. Another thing regarding copy that you can test is testing a copy of your value proposition. And I cannot emphasize enough how important that is. And even though the value proposition is something that is usually really, really up the funnel on your landing pages, it's so important. Sometimes it can impact the final conversion as well. So this is a case study that we've done with kissmia.com. This is a dating website, and they decided to test a copy of a value proposition. So basically the first message that people see when they land on their website for the first time, and the goal for them is to register, to create an account on a dating website. And they were comparing easy way to find your soulmate, serious dating and communication, and find your love. Now, do you have any guesses which one worked the best? So like easy way, serious dating, and find your love. And again, I'm not sure where to click on to see messages in the chat.
Anna, I can read the guesses for you. So we have majority guessing the third.
Oh. And I'm so glad to tell you that you're right. And at the end of the day, it's all about love and A/B testing your value propositions, of course, which is very, very important. So yeah, even these kind of small things. When you can think about the copy as about building the experiences on your products with words. And sometimes we can underestimate what impact the language can have on the business. But you need to really run these tests, very small tests, a copy of CTA text labels, sorry, it's a typo in there, CTA text labels, navigational items, value proposition, adding text labels to icons. And that's how you will see what kind of impact the language has on the business. Nice. So moving on to the next one. And yeah, probably everybody can relate to this. Every driver had this situation. And I'm obviously going to talk about navigation at the moment. And navigation is a very, very complex area. I will just maybe touch upon a few things that we saw work well regarding the mobile navigation, specifically for websites, right? So one of the first things is displaying high-level categories on the home page. What usually happens when we adopt desktop design to mobile, right? We are trying to, I don't know, first of all, we implement the hamburger menu, and then all the high-level categories of all things that you have on the desktop, they used to be just up there, above the fold, displayed prominently. However, on mobile, quite often they just get hidden behind the hamburger, right? So what you should be doing, you should still display all the high-level categories on your landing page, on your home page, and support them with visuals. So I mean, using a combination of visual plus text. So the first point is the fact that you need to display them. It's how you will, first of all, give a sense of the breadth of all products and services that your website is providing people with. And if they're there for the first time, they will have this understanding of all things that they can do there, all things that your business is selling. So it kind of, again, creates very positive first impression, and it supports your value proposition, again, as a company, maybe value proposition of the website, why they should buy here and now. And again, the combination of visuals plus text works really, really well, because you can have just text labels, right? It's just naming the categories themselves, but adding some icons or photographs or simple illustrations really helps to send a signal to the brain, because again, our brain is built in the way that we see visuals first, and after that we read text, because we all learned to read text when we were 5, 6, but visuals is something which Mother Nature has, taught our brain to do at the very first moment. So that's why you always need to use a combination of visuals plus text, and that's how you can make things very again clear with it, by leaving no room for misinterpretation by adding text labels, but also very communicative by adding the visual. Yeah, that's the high-level categories. Another thing that you can consider for your landing pages, for your home pages, is exposing the full search bar. And obviously, if you expose the search bar, you're going to end up having more searches on mobile and tablets. This is a case study with British retailer Matalan that we published on Think with Google. You can follow that link and see more A/B tests that we've done with them. But the reason why you really should consider exposing the search bar is because you can check conversion rates for people who search, and it's usually much, much higher than the conversion rate for people who don't search, right? So people who search, that part of your audience, they would have a very clear intention in mind. They have an understanding what they want to buy, and obviously search for them is like the first thing to go and to use. That's why you need to display it prominently and to provide this part of your audience with an excellent functionality. The next one is another A/B test that we've done with Matalan team, and this is actually very, very interesting. So we do see a lot across apps design, the bottom level navigation, right? And apps, they were originally designed with mobile only user in mind. So in general, bottom level navigation is a very good idea for mobile, but we don't see it that often on mobile websites. This has a lot of just legacy reasons, right? So when, again, we adapt our website from desktop to mobile, it just gets the top level navigation as a legacy from desktop. However, we see more and more brands moving towards bottom level navigation. And in general, the key point here is it is a good idea for an A/B test. However, there is another point here that when the users are going to be ready for that on mobile websites to see this on the web. This is a test that we've done with Matalan, and you can see there before and after implementation. And with the bottom level navigation with this specific implementation, they did see more engagements with the basket icon, and that was a very good thing for them. However, the number of interactions with the other elements in the panel has decreased, and they didn't want that. So they returned it back to the original one. So again, the key point here is that it is a good idea on mobile in general because it's an ergonomic location. I don't need to change the way I'm holding my phone, right? I don't need to use my second hand in order to interact with the navigation panel on the bottom. But we need to find the right design, and we need to be sure that our audience on the web is ready for that. So do test these things and test the best design for that. And also regarding just the last piece on the bottom navigation, what we saw works really well on websites, and unfortunately we don't have any good case study on that. But if you have just one key call to action per page, for example, it's a, I don't know, you are a, again, B2B software company, and you are collecting leads, and the only action for the audience is to, you know, leave their email address and sign up for a free trial. So in this case, you can just display, again, stick the key call to action on the bottom of the page, sometimes on the top, but on the bottom as well. And that's how people are always going to be aware of what is that key thing that you want them to do. You want them to sign up, you want them to add product to the cart, you want them to do something else, right? And that is a very elegant solution instead of duplicating the same CTA multiple times on the same page. Great. Just the next point regarding navigation, if anybody here speaks Russian, you can confirm that this is a basket page. If you don't speak Russian, you have to believe me. So this is a basket page of one Russian retailer, and this is a before and after the redesign that we've done with them. So they redesigned the basket page so that once the user is in the basket, I hope you can just see that they removed all unnecessary navigation, all exit points. They removed the hamburger menu button. I think you can still go back. Yeah. So the blue kind of hyperlink under the key CTA is kind of says go back to browse the website. But in general, so once people are in the basket, they kind of removed all other exit points, all navigation points that they consider to be unnecessary, and they've got more conversions, and they increased the average order value with that. And this is so-called the rule of noise. The rule of noise, again, when you want people to focus on the task, when you want them to complete the form, complete the checkout, you just remove all the noise. And as you can see, even like this page, the variant page, it looks much cleaner, and it draws all my attention just to the list of things that are in the basket and to the key call to action. So it's kind of, again, removing all unnecessary things that people don't need to know at this stage. They don't need the search bar exposed at this point, that they don't need to anything else. Different companies have different implementation of the rule of noise. Sometimes people can, so you can, what navigation icons are okay to leave? One of them can be go back. Some people leave the logo, like the logo can still be clickable, and you can go, however, the logo usually takes people to the homepage. It's not really keeping people within the context, but going back, getting in touch with support, these are nice kind of navigation options that you can still keep at this stage. Right, so that's the rule of noise. And yeah, these are again just a few things regarding navigation that we saw working well. Testing bottom level and top navigation bar, call to action sticky to the bottom, limited navigation elements, and yeah, very, very important regarding the designing your homepage and landing pages, displaying all the high level categories or all these kind of high level options where people can go, how people can start exploring the content and exposing the search bar if you do have one there. That is a really great user experience. Moving on to the next thing, and this is a landing page for Google Ads if you want to start an account. And you may have heard, like that above the fold space is very, very important. And there is kind of this informal rule of 3 elements above the fold. So whenever you look at your landing page on mobile, and not only on mobile, and desktop as well, you need to make sure you always have in place A, value proposition, B, call to action, and C, visuals. So value proposition can be pretty much, again, an illustration of who you are as a company, what makes you stand out from your competitors, or maybe value proposition of the website, why people need to buy here and now, right? So something that is relevant to 100% of your audience. And usually people consider promo banners being value proposition, but they're not really, because they will not be relevant to everyone unless it's a discount for everyone who buys on the website. Then it's call to action. Again, you can have multiple call to actions. High level categories are also part of the call to action. So it's basically different navigation options, how people can start exploring the content. And this is where you need to be absolutely clear at every screen, at every point of time, how you want people to really start. Like, out of all call to actions, you need to highlight with the design the key one, right? So if here, for example, I can click on the start now, I can go to the hamburger button, but the start now is much more, it's right in the center of the screen, it's high contrast color, it draws all my attention into that one. So I would say this one is the key. And by the way, there is no, I would probably, we'll get there later. And the last one is visuals, right? So this is something that quite a lot of companies tend to forget about, especially finance services, again, tech B2B. This is how you need to illustrate what your company is doing, what the landing page is about. So these kind of things, I already talked about that. But let's still let's still search for things to improve on this page. So it looks like they've got all 3 elements, of having 3 elements above the fold. So is there still anything that we can improve? How much time I have left? Not much. Let me just, so does this page continue? I don't know. I actually don't think so. However, it does, and they have benefits of signing up for Google Ads there. Very important information, very well written, but nobody is ever going to see that because they will just have no idea they need to scroll down, right? So that brings us to the next point, breaking the, I wanted to say the wheel, but no, breaking the fold, making sure you're designing above the fold space in a way that people are clear they need to scroll down in order to see more. Another case study that we have done with 100 Rooms, this is a search vacation aggregator in Spain. And what we've done, we've redesigned with them also, you can see on the before and after, a hotel listing pages. And as you can see, so before, once I was landing there, I could only see above the fold 1 hotel option. But then on the screenshot after, I was immediately, from the first moment I landed there, I was immediately clear this is a list. This is a list and there are more options below. So I have much more motivation, conscious motivation to scroll down because I want to see the list there, right? So it's like breaking the fold. Another point here is do not rush to commitment is more, if you can notice, they also removed the call to action reserve with TripAdvisor. I believe this is Spanish, sorry, I'm not speaking Latin. So they also removed the call to action reserve with TripAdvisor, and they introduced just add to favorites. And this is very similar to the case study that I showed you before with the hotel search. It's, again, meeting users where they are. You probably are not yet ready to reserve by just looking at the hotel on the product listing page. However, you can click on there, see more, add to favorites in order to compare later. So that makes more sense at this stage for users. So yeah, I forgot to say that basically the new version performed much better than the previous one. Moving on to the next one, I think it's one of the last pieces regarding the testing recommendations is testing forms to engage users, right? So we all know that if we're already down the funnel, if we want people to convert, to complete the purchase, forms have to be as short as possible. But sometimes if the forms are, for example, again, if you need to collect the lead, you can experiment with the breadcrumbs technique, so-called. It's when you are first engaging the users by asking them no threat or low threat questions, like, for example, what are you looking for? What are your goals of your business? And after that, after the user has already done some job, they provided you with some information, and then you say, well, we need your email address in order to send you some information. And that's how they will more eager to share some personal information with you. And this is another case study on this topic that we have done with Reich. They do project management software, and they compared two landings. So one landing on the left is very short. It has, as you can see, the rule of noise, no other navigation. I just can, simply enter my email address and register for a free trial. However, on the other landing page on the right-hand side, so I had to first select my role, what I want to learn about Reich. For example, I'm a marketeer. I want to learn how Reich can help my team. And then I was being redirected to the relevant section of the landing page. So basically, I was redirected to the answers to my specific questions. And what they found was that conversion rate was higher on the short landing, right? Because I simply have no other choice done rather than to leave my email address in there. However, the quality of leads that they were getting was higher from the second page. So people who found answers to their specific questions, they showed much more interest and in buying the product later, right? So after conversion. So again, it's at the end of the day, it's not only about just conversions, it's also about the quality of these conversions, quality of leads that you're getting from these conversions. And yeah, you can play around with the forms and with the breadcrumbs technique if you want to engage people before asking them to commit. Use forms to engage the users. So now I'm just going to show you the entire checklist for the test part. And again, as I said, this is kind of the majority. Oh, I'm not sure if it's the full one. Anyway, so the majority of my presentation is about giving you different A/B testing recommendations, because that's my job. That's what I do with different companies. But what is usually happening is we speak to companies and they say, yeah, that's great, we will definitely test that, and they don't, or I don't know, they find reasons, excuses, people leave, other people come. So we also learned a few more things, that it's not as easy for just to go and test this thing. So what else is there? What else is stop it. Oh yeah, by the way, you can also, if you're looking for more testing recommendations, we have a channel called Conversions at Google. You can subscribe to that one. It's being curated by my team. And I do have 2 talks there. One of them you're listening to now. The other one is Basics of Landing Page Design. You can have a look at that one. I'm just finishing the test part. We're also running at the moment Mobile UX Marathon. It's a series of Google webinars about UX conversion rate optimization, and do check that website. There are many more UX recommendations to test in there. And yeah, so going back to this one, oh, there you go. This is more full list. So yeah, it's not that easy. It's just to go and test these things. So this is a research that recently was published by the Conversion Excel team. So they say that A/B testing is only 20% of conversion rate optimization process. So in terms of time spent. What else is there, right? What else we're all spending time on? So, okay, 20% of your time, you do spend on running tests. 20% of your time you spend on looking into the data and trying to understand what's going on, to interpret data, to understand visitors' behavior, get insights. And what is the rest? What is this like massive gray area? What is the 60% of we spend time on? So that is actually people, right? It's managing projects, talking to people, and navigating different politics that we all have to deal with. And the bigger organization, the more you actually sometimes have to do that. So I'm just going to stay very high level on all these things. Let's say the first part, I gave you a few recommendations for what you can go and test. But no, what I want to say is that no, it's not as easy as just to go and test these things, right? You need to be aware of how efficient you are in talking to other people, of how good you are at looking into data and all those things. So let's have a very quick look into understanding the problems of the page, and I'm going to stay very high level here. You can watch the Mobile UX Marathon. Even though it's almost over, we have a lot of video materials recorded and published on the website and the Conversions at Google, the YouTube channel as well. But basically what we're talking about there is about people, they would look into data and they see different things, right? People say things like conversions, statistical significance, but they have different backgrounds and they may understand different things under them. So you all need to agree on the basics within your organization. You all need to be very, very good at statistics. If you are not, you need to invest into your own knowledge or resources, or hire someone who is really good at that and trust them fully. But also another reason why we're all making mistakes when we look into data is because we're all human beings. And we want to see that our variant wins, right? We have an idea how we can improve UX, how we can improve design. We launch the test. And even highly trained statisticians, they make mistakes when they look into data. They stop the A/B test before it runs for a needed amount of time. They stop it earlier when they see the first spike, because they just want to see their own ideas work. They want to see the variant wins, and they want obviously to report to the management that we did this launch and the result was, the best. But what the point of the entire UX optimization, designing for the user, and conversion rate optimization is to learn and not to win. You do need to really learn statistics, but at the same time you need to learn how to be humble, how to be aware of your own bias, and how to celebrate failed A/B tests. Because if the A/B test failed, then it was good that it failed, because it was a good idea in the first place to launch this test and not to implement the change directly. So, and this is a very, very delicate moment. You need to really work on your own mindset. You need to try to be humble, and you need to also work on the how you change the mindset of people around you, right? Which brings us to the next point, to managing people, managing the way you talk to them, and managing the way you agree on things, right? And the reason why we spend so much time on doing this, talking to other people, is because we're just inefficient in that, and we can't agree on basics. So let's just finish with some practical things that you can do in order to change the mindset of people around you, change the culture of your company, right? Because what I'm basically moving into is changing a culture. And again, on the Mobile UX Marathon website, you can find a lot more lectures on that. So this is a typical situation that you have many different departments. Everybody has to do something with the product, right? And they would have all different KPIs, different interests, different goals. And there's lots of conflicts, right? UX people would care a lot about UX. And when we talk to them and we say, well, you know, you have the animated carousel on the landing page. Do you want to turn off the animation? But they say, yeah, we know that's good UX. But we also have our marketing department, right? And they do want to have that animation going on, and because they believe they need to get featured all the partnerships that they have in place. And you know, C-level, they may not be even aware about priority, UX is a priority, or mobile being a priority. Developers are always busy. In product, you may have very challenging people that just want to translate their vision onto everyone. This is so-called Steve Jobs effect, and they won't listen to anyone else. Who else? Customer support. They're not even on the slide because people just forget about customer support, but they are actually a graveyard of really good feedback, and nobody includes them into UX optimization. Nobody listens to them, but they are a graveyard of really good customer issues. And what you need to do, you need just to kind of unite all departments are under the same idea, under product excellence, under being agile, being able to listen to each other, and being able to change the direction fast. I already said the few key words here. Sorry, I'm really running out of time. So one of the things that you can try design thinking methods. And design thinking methods are, first of all, design sprints, right? You can read the book by Jake Knapp, the design sprint book. But basically, design sprints, they're allowing you to get the feedback on the prototypes at the early stage, but more importantly, they are requiring all people, all stakeholders to be in the room, all people to spend some time on the problem and to develop a shared understanding, shared vision behind the problem, right? Just give you another example really quick. One of the design sprints that I ran last year was in South Africa. This is one life insurance company. So within just one day, they redesigned at the Google Design Sprint the landing page. So as you can see, the new landing page, they killed in terms of conversions. But they said, well, they were very well aware of these best practices of landing page design, you know, because we spoke to them before, but they said they've never really got to sit down together with different departments. They also brought their agency to the sprint. They never really got to sit down together and do this work because they said, well, you know, we have the tyranny of really short meetings. So design sprint kind of allowed them again to develop a shared understanding that yes, these changes are necessary and to implement them just within one day. So it definitely improves time to implementation. And I just want to finish maybe with this kind of maturity model that we have recently launched at Google. This is where we kind of are saying that yes, UX, you know, A/B testing is very important, and being data-driven, having a data-driven culture is important, but you also need to move into being data aware. You need to practice the user research at the same time. You need to involve absolutely all departments into this. You need C-level has to be involved. So it has to be a cross-functional team. Just if I have another minute, this is another case study done by my colleagues from France. They worked during 2 years with Club Med. This is also a travel company, and they were constantly optimizing not only UX on their website, but they were also changing the culture. They introduced the Club Med team. They introduced cross-functional teams. They introduced agile bi-weekly sprints. They started doing a lot of user research in there, and you know, by changing the culture, the UX on their mobile website has changed, and they increased the mobile revenue, which was a really great win for them. So again, understanding where you are as an organization in your zero maturity level, it will help you to understand how you move forward, right? How do you grow as a company? And this is where you need to, again, to find allies you build this culture with, build this culture of being agile, being really changing fast and developing shared understanding, getting people work on the same problems, share the same KPIs, and getting C-level involved, right? So I want to finish with this quote: product excellence is a culture. Unfortunately, it's not another checklist that I can share with you. It's kind of having this shared responsibility. It's having pride of contributing into a great product. You know, at Google, we have this culture of constantly dogfooding our own products. Everybody who works in the company can submit feedback into any product. That's how we're all feeling the pride of making contributions into that. So really, you know, what you need to do is to work on the changing the culture of the company. And if you feel like the internal processes are one of the biggest barriers for you at the moment to achieve a great UX on your product, then you should make this #1 goal for you. Thanks.
Awesome webinar, Anna. Our chat is pretty active here, and I have some questions for you. So on the topic of stakeholders, we have one question from Sean. He's asking, if your client is insisting that you rush to the commitment despite conversations surrounding the benefits of putting the CTA at the bottom of the experience, is there a resource that you have used to successfully inform them and get the necessary buy-in?
So once again, let me rephrase that. So they do want to implement the CTA fixed on the bottom, or they do not?
If your client is insisting that you rush the commitment despite conversations surrounding the benefits of putting the CTA at the bottom of the experience, is there a resource that you have used successfully to inform them and get the necessary buy-in? Yes, I believe they're saying if the client would like to have the CTA at the bottom.
Yeah. I don't have any case study on that. If I had, I would have shared. Lots of different best practices, and again, referring to best-in-class examples helps. Launching tests and just showing the data also helps. And in general, data is one of the most powerful ways to convince stakeholders, convince clients in that. Looking into, best-in-class examples. Maybe this kind of things. But yeah, it might be tricky as well, like why they don't want to do that. Maybe sometimes it doesn't work for everyone. Sometimes we do see more successful implementation examples with CTA being just on the top. Also, maybe it becomes part of the top navigation panel. And sometimes CTA in the bottom can create this kind of blindness a bit, you know, when it's camouflaging with the browser UI or with the color of the phone. So it's tricky. But in general, it is a good solution to just really push people into clicking that, right? If we just if we're being direct. So I don't know, we just try to understand the key reasons why they don't want to do that. If they're open to testing that, to just test different layouts with having it on the top and the bottom, or any other way of displaying that.
Okay, awesome. We have another question here from Jay Shri. And their question is about the categories you showed on the homedesign.com example. And the question is, on mobile, what is the best way to represent the visual categories if you have about 8 to 10, or maybe more? Would it be having a slider? You know, they're worried about hiding categories.
Yeah, so if you have about 8, 10 of them, you can display all of them at the same time. You don't need to kind of hide them, I would say. There are many different ways. I haven't seen any best way to implement that. I think the example that I was showing on the slide just recently, when Instagram introduced their stories, this way to display the high-level categories became really, really popular. And we saw a lot of fashion retailers in general taking inspiration from social networks. And yeah, this one became quite popular. But I think the point is just to simply have them displayed above the fold. When they are scrollable, you may have some limits on the number of those. So for 8, 10, I would say it's perfect. But if you, again, what part of the page you want them to occupy, and what is that the primary way how you want people to start exploring the content? Maybe you don't have, you know, search working that well, and you don't want to drive people that much into search, and you want to start them exploring, clicking on the high level category in the first place. Then you maybe can consider the high level categories occupying half of the screen, maybe even more, right? So it depends on what is the primary way you want people to start engaging the content. If that is scrolling down the high level categories, then it's probably just put them into the body of the page and above the fold, of course.
Awesome, thanks, Anna. I do have a question here for from Natalie. Another Natalie, but she's asking if you can speak about nudges. There are so many behavioral apps which the metric is engagement. What are some best practices for encouraging engagement but not annoying the user? It's a really fine line.
Yeah, this is a really great question. And again, I think the perfect illustration to that is actually this animated carousels, right? So the reason why people would usually implement that, because they would think it's engaging people, but this is actually turning them out of this because it's animation. Any pop-up windows, it's really, really tricky when you design any pop-up window with the upsell, with any, you know, subscribe now. The pop-up windows, what we see, they usually tend to people tend to ignore them because again, in the past they would have really painful experiences with different interstitials. And yeah, I think it's about also displaying really relevant information, beneficial information for the user, right? So if you want to engage people, you would probably need to work on the copy, work on displaying why they need to continue exploring things. So if you, for example, if you again would implement a pop-up window so as a design solution, you need to be super clear and descriptive about what do you want from them, how they would benefit from signing up or adding more elements into the cart. Yeah, so I think it's all about like talking about, again, the benefits for the user, not about some pushing your products. Yeah, I also saw that so if we speak about technology, you can use different chats, you know, sometimes Chats are kind of new, again, way to engage people. Instead of having the form, you implement a conversational form, so-called a chat, or you use the voice input. That's really a big thing at the moment as well. People like do some part of the users of the audience would really enjoy these things. Yeah, I can't think of any more, but yeah, I do agree. It's really, really great question. You need to be very careful with that. Another example that I can just bring is, I think it's really, really interesting, and you can find the talk at the Conversions Google channel. It's our product director, Luke Wróblewski. He was talking about the way we changed the onboarding to Google products. We used to have a lot of onboarding screens where we would just explain people how the product works, and you had to read all the instructions. But now we just stopped doing that in Maps. We stopped doing that in Google Photos, because we basically realized people just, they ignore that and they skip to the core functionality. So the core product, photos and maps. So just give people what they want first for free, and then once they love your product, they will be more willing to engage with it later.
Thanks, Anna. We are at the top of our hour, but I do want to end with one last question, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Someone here is asking, what's your thinking about data-driven design? Or what are your thoughts on data-driven design?
Yeah, so as I said, it shouldn't be data-driven. The industry is switching towards being data-informed, design being data-informed, but because the data, if you just look into data, it's really hard to interpret it in the right way to make correct assumptions. But the real reasons how you understand whether design works or not or why you have this data, is doing the qualitative research, is doing user research, user testing labs. Because, for example, if you just look into the data, you can see that 70% of people drop out at the checkout stage, or specifically at certain form step. But then when you do user tests, you understand why people actually do that. And I think you cannot find anything else as powerful as just watching people trying to use your product. So it should never be just data driven. And I think also it's a good, we spoke recently at the marathon about redesigning sites. So how would you define the success of the new redesign when you launch multiple changes at once, right? It's by the theory of that you should be A/B testing. It's impossible, right? You're implementing many things at once. And this is where we actually spoke about importance of looking at the different micro conversions as well, but also just getting qualitative feedback from users, right? So you may implement a absolutely new design of your product, and I don't know, the key metrics you're looking at may just stay at the same level. So is it better? Is it worse? You don't know. However, you may just ask people and they would say, oh yeah, I actually just, I don't know, like it more. I don't know, it's more convenient for me. It would just make a difference in the short run in different way, and you will not find that difference. You won't find that positive feedback if you just look into data. So to different perspectives, they do help, and that's why, again, in the CRO maturity model, you need to understand whether you're using only data-driven methods, but also the qualitative research as well, and you need to practice it on a constant basis. Yeah.
Anna, thank you so much for the great webinar. Everyone in the chat is raving about it. And for those of you who are still on the call, this recording will be shared with you via email. If you have any questions, I have shared her Twitter handle and her LinkedIn page in the chat, so feel free to reach out to her that way.
Oh, now I can finally see how to open the chat. Oh, sorry. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn, and yeah, happy to help, collaborate. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And Anna, thank you again.
Great. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.